read the script. But before I do that, I want to say Happier New Year to all of you and to the town of Dover. And this is our first meeting of the year 2021. So hello and welcome to the January 7th, 2021 Board of Selectmen meeting. Tonight's meeting is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order. Somebody needs to go on. I'm getting echo, is it me? John, just mute yourself and we'll see what happens. Let's see if it works. Yeah, that helped. Tonight's meeting is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. For this meeting, the Board of Selectmen is convened by Zoom, as posted on the town's website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. In this case, everyone is, except, no, maybe not. Please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that we broadcast may be captured by the recording. As a preliminary matter, I'm going to confirm that all members of the board are present and can hear me. I am Bob Springer, Chair. John?
John Jeffries, present.
Robin?
Robin Hunter, present.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Chris Dwelly?
Present.
Kate O'Brien?
Present.
Dave Sullivan?
Present.
Paul Warwick?
Present.
Mona DeSulio?
Present.
Anticipated speakers, I don't think we have anybody on the agenda. And so I'm going to move on to the agenda. Community citizens comments. Any citizen comments? Justine.
Very briefly, as you know, I'm
Justine, introduce yourself, please. Like
all right, Justine Kent Uratam. I'm speaking as an individual. However, I'm also a member of the Water Committee under the Board of Health. I see Carol Lisbon is also here as another member of the Water Committee under the Board of Health. I've talked to, I think, all three of you over the last several months about my ongoing concern with two issues, and I'm sure Carol will have her own opinions about this too. One being the ongoing issue of excessive water withdrawals during the summer months by Colonial Water Company, self-acknowledged through their annual statistical reports. Why am I concerned about this? A, because I am concerned about 40B housing. Without a large capacity water supply, it would be much more difficult in Dover to have 40B housing. And the effects of excessive water withdrawal secondarily on private wells near the water wells of Colonial. Whether or not the E. coli situation from last summer was due to overpumping or not, I don't know. But I would hope that the three of you would continue to work, and I know you have this as an agenda item later on with the Colonial Water Company, would continue to work with Denise Garlick, the state rep, and with Mike Rush, the state senator, to put pressure on Mass DEP to regulate, as they should be, the excessive water withdrawals during the summer months of Colonial Water Company. And I think Carol may want to say also something, perhaps not Carol, I don't know, about irrigation systems. So that's a supply side of water issues from my point of view in Dover. But they're also a demand side, and maybe Carol will speak or maybe not about irrigation systems. I don't know.
Thanks, Justine. Carol?
Can't hear.
Now you're good.
Sorry, I was mute from another Zoom meeting I just got off of. I'm not planning to say much, actually, Justine. I have had a good conversation with Chris Dwelly before the holidays on the broader issues, and I have recently copied him on an email that I sent to the Water Study Committee members with my thoughts There aren't any simple answers. And as we all discussed, I think John, Justine and I at the Open Space Committee meeting Tuesday night, it's quite frankly too simplistic just to say we need to do something about colonial water. So there is a supply side aspect of this, and that's part of what the Kleinfelder report suggested that we look at. And I think if we are to be looking at anything as a Board of Health, Water Study Committee, Board of Selectmen, it's looking at how we start a more robust education program, how we look at beginning to look at irrigation systems and look at some of the best practices in other towns that we've begun to research and see if it's something that makes sense to implement in Dover. And, I would hope that we can do that kind of discussion and analysis and research before everybody turns on their systems in May. So, thank you.
Okay, so thanks. I'm just going to say 2 words, or maybe 25,000 words, I'm not quite sure. I mean, water as a town resource is incredibly, we all know, there's been a lot of work that's been done. The hydrology study, I think, was a pretty innovative thing to do a couple of years back, to provide a foundation of knowledge around water usage in Dover. And the board has been pretty focused on water. And one of the reasons why we wanted to create the Water Resources Task Force, so that we could sort of pull all of the issues together under the guise of one task force, build on the work that's been going on for the last several years. And I think Robin Hunter volunteered to lead the effort for the Board of Selectmen. So I'm hoping that if we get the organizational structure right, we get the resource commitment right, that we will be able to move forward on really what's been, sort of an irritant in the town for a very long period of time. So I think we have the foundational things in place. I think we have a great deal of information that has been gathered over the years. As I think both you and Carol, both you and Justina said, this is, it's a thorny issue. And how one approaches the issue across Dover in a way that will ultimately be effective and constructive, I'm going to leave to the good graces of the Water Resource Task Force and the Water Resource Committee, who I'm sure have a plethora of political skills to help us weave our way through the thicket. It's important. It's a serious thing. And I think we have it teed up. Robin, do you want to add anything to that?
So do you want us to comment about water now? I was actually going to make some comments on the at the Selectmen's update. So do you want to
Okay,
wait?
if you want to add, if not, that's fine. We can just move on. I just wanted to think that it's important.
Right, it's really important, and I think the Water Resource Committee has continued to do some really great work. We charged them with this year putting together a communication campaign, and I think the one thing that I noted during this drought, which was different from the 2016 drought, there was a lot of communication that went out, and just by communicating that we were in a drought, I mean, Colonial Water reported to us that they saw a 30% decline in usage compared to the following year. And I don't want to lose that momentum. I think we should continue to build upon that, because it's baby steps that are going to get us to where we need to go. I am not an advocate of using a stick to get there. I think education is a really important piece of it. And I know from attending some of the Water Resource Committee meetings that they really have done a lot of work this year. And I would like to add them to one of our agendas so they could present to the board and then maybe to the community as a whole, what they have done and some of the recommendations that have come out of the research that they've done over the past year.
Okay, thank you. John, anything else, or can we move on?
We can move on. I think we've all publicly stated our individual and our overall goals, Bob. And I think between Justine, Carol, Robin, and you, I think everybody's pretty clear we're on the same page. So, and what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to avoid. So I think we can move on.
Okay, well, thank you. Then I'm going to go to item 1.1, operating budget presentation. Thank you, Justine. Thank you, Carol. And I'm going to hand it off to Chris Dwelly.
Thank you, Bob. Kate's going to bring up a few slides that we've put together for the board to give you an overview of what we are looking at this early stage for the FY22 budget planning process. And this information is provided so that you, as the select board, as well as the warrant committee and the other financial policymakers in town, have as much information as possible as we start to head into the departmental budget reviews and really get into the budget setting process in earnest. So I'll jump right in with a quick reflection on last year, which is technically currently this current fiscal year. And this is a slide that I wanted to include leading into this or next year's budget setting process, because it's a slide that I think many in the community, certainly from the policymaking standpoint, should be proud of. So when we ended up setting our final tax rate a few weeks back to get our Q3 bills out, we ended the year at $12.89 per thousand evaluation, which is a minimal increase over the prior year. And to be able to do that with the work that the board has set out over the past year, the investments that were made in last year's budget process to move a lot of these priorities forward, all while we're experiencing revenue declines because of a global pandemic, to be able to keep the tax rate this stable is about as good as it gets from my perspective. So I just wanted to certainly highlight that for folks as we head into the FY22 budget setting process, because this is always a goal of ours, is how do we continue services and expand services while doing so in a cost-effective way. So on the next slide, there's a quick overview for everyone on what we're looking at presently for revenues for FY22. So on the left side in the table are three major revenue sources in town. You got the property tax levy, which, as you all know, we can go up to a 2.5% increase from last year's levy limit. So that difference is the amount seen there. And speaking with the assessors, we're projecting $125,000 for new growth. At this point, that number is a bit of a conservative number, but it's a smart number this early on. And our local receipts we are projecting things to pick up. We made a lot of conservative and really smart moves last year to make sure that we weren't overestimating our local receipts, which would have gotten us in trouble as we went to close out the year and set the tax rate. But we've seen, as the data has come in on everything from building permits to motor vehicle excise, that we've got some additional room to kind of bring those back up, and that those, at least locally in Dover, have not been as impacted as some other communities have seen as a result of the pandemic. I didn't include state aid in here, which is our fourth main revenue stream, just because we don't have a state aid number. from the state yet, but we are projecting a little bit of we're not projecting, but we're incorporating a little bit of our decrease in our local aid, our state aid, excuse me, based on declining revenues. But I can talk a little bit more about that later. So again, we're just in January at this point, and so this data specifically as it relates to local receipts and state aid, will fluctuate and adjust as we get further along into this current fiscal year. So on the next slide.
Chris, can I ask one question on that one?
Sure.
How did you factor in licensee revenues from Carroll?
For 22?
Yeah,
I have reduced the amount for licensees to conservatively reflect the Carroll Community Center being closed for half of the year next year. And I did that again to be on a conservative approach from the outset here as we start to build the budget. But then also under the assumption that as we get closer through a vaccination process, as well as we head back into warmer weather, that perhaps we'll be able to adjust that back up in the warmer months for next year. But at this point, given that the building is closed right now, that's what I've gone in for that particular license and rental amount for the building.
thank you.
On expenses, I like to provide the board with just a general overview of our major cost increases, your major cost drivers, and these are just year over year increases as we estimate them now. So we're estimating schools, both Chickering and the region, to come in, and Minuteman and Norfolk Aggie to come in at a little over $500,000. These are all estimates. They're estimates that the region, Chickering, and Minuteman have provided to their respective school committees earlier in December. And as they finalize their budgets, we'll certainly adjust those numbers. Overall, entire town wages, this is everything from steps, COLAs, longevity. We're looking at a little over $100,000 there. Our retirement assessment is projected at about $150,000, and our entire insurance line, which includes both employee health insurance as well as our property and liability coverage, about 130 right there. So what I will say on the pension and the insurance, and I'll get into a little bit more detail on the next slide. These are pretty are conservative estimates as well. I'd rather budget higher at this point than lowball it and be in a tougher spot as we get further along. So the new cost increases I've detailed over on the right. These are new major things that are being asked for. This does not represent inflation for fuel or electricity. They're new services essentially that are being asked for. And so there's only a few true new ones for FY22. You'll see those at the bottom of that table. One is for the Conservation Commission related to a few increases for the already existing full-time employee there who does not work a full 40 to 35 hour week, but is a full-time employee. So there's a few additional hours for that individual based on the commission's increased workload over the past 2 years. And then the Board of Health has put in a request for a part-time staff member. And those two costs are reflected there for new requests for FY22. Above those are carryovers from last year. As you'll recall, given the pandemic, we made the call to only fund the new positions that we put forward last year for 6 months so that we could see at this time in this past fall what the economic recovery looked like. And as we're projecting presently with all our conservative figures, and again, as I described, our local revenue receipts, things look good in Dover. And so we want to move forward, or I'm recommending that we move forward with the positions that we discussed last year, which were funded at town meeting, but only for half of the year this year. On the next slide, I've just gone into, again, a little bit more detail on the assessments and our major cost drivers. I just wanted to be able to actually show you what the year-over-year percent increase was, and show you that, again, these are all estimates this early in the year. As we get later on into February and March, we'll have firm numbers for all of these. But these ones are important because, you know, these are your big dollar assessments here. And as Ed mentioned, you know, 10% for retirement, for instance, is a pretty high number. It's not astronomical, but I'd rather be a little bit more conservative at the outset. On the next slide, I just put together a real quick summary. I won't read everything on here, but it just essentially says that the budgets that the board and the warrant committee have from all the departments, are fully funding all of our liabilities. They're addressing a lot of the community's goals with a lot of the things that have been asked for and have been reflected, and certainly through the board's goals. And what's a really reassuring and nice number at this point, all in with all the requests at this point and our conservative estimates for revenue, we've got approximately $600,000 in unused levy capacity. So, obviously we're increasing a bit, but we don't have to tax to the full 2.5% at this time, which is a really good thing. And then on the next slide, I just wanted to give a kind of quick year over year. So I could probably do a better job illustrating this, but overall, the operating budget, if you look at the top line as proposed for FY22, is a 2.6% increase, total dollar increase of just under $1 million. And I included last year's budget pre-COVID to show where we were at, and similar, but a little bit less there at about $850,000, or a 2.2% increase. So this is here to show consistency, at least year over year, in terms of what we're looking at the operating budget at this preliminary state. And I've included a 5-year operating budget history, just to give you a little bit of a historical perspective on the actual years as they closed out as it related to the operating budget. And then, of course, what was appropriated last year and what's been presented so far this year. So that's my quick overview for the board. Happy to answer any particular questions that you might have. You've got the full budget packet of all the departmental submissions at this point. The warrant committee has, I believe, started their departmental reviews. I think the Board of Selectmen departments are, at this point, at least tentatively scheduled for next Wednesday for a preliminary discussion. And I've also provided to the board, it's not here in this presentation, but a table that actually breaks down the individual revenue lines and some of the other particular lines that make up the entire budget, such as special recurring articles and the capital budget as well. So you get the full picture of how all of the finances are intertwined.
John, anything?
Two quick things for me, Bob. One is, obviously, Chris, the thing that jumps off the page in this and in the packet that you sent to us earlier the week is the retirement. The retirement number is both a big number as a percentage and a big number in real terms. So that's probably going to get the most. That's probably going to get the most attention. It's probably going to be the one that's questioned the most with regards to our next presentation, and as we solidify these going forward. The other thing that we're going to get questions about is the library. The library specifically in terms of its cost, the number of days it was open, then, or if you want to turn the tables around and how it was asked to me, it was closed for a long time. And, we're still, so how do we rationalize or how do we justify it? It's not something that people were getting services out of. And I know it's a little bit delicate because of the COVID situation that happened recently. So the question came to me recently. It's probably come to others. And I guess it's something that we're going to have to be prepared for as people ask these questions in the scope of, we didn't get a lot of services for this, but yet we're still paying for this. And in some cases, we're paying more for this. So I'm not expecting answers. It's just a comment tonight for everyone. And it's something I think we should be prepared for.
Thanks, John. Robin?
So first of all, I wanted to say good job. I really liked that summary, the detailed summary. It's really helpful. I did have a question, and I should probably know this, and I've just forgotten the answer. But the fiscal year 20, the operating budget is significantly lower than fiscal year 21, what was appropriated. So can you remind me why?
Yeah, so there were a few appropriations that were large appropriations that were essentially level funded or close to being level funded. Chickering came in actually at a reduced number than the prior year. Our health insurance was level funded. And we've also got, so our excluded debt is captured in the operating budget, even though it's paid for through an override. And so as we have debt drop off year over year, it looks like you see a decrease in that line, but it's essentially, it's a wash, right? Because you're not getting taxed that additional amount. So those are the major factors that you see the decline in that particular year. But yeah, that was something that jumped out to me, and I ran through everything again to see what was
it's just like
happening there. Yeah, that is atypical though.
Okay. Chris, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to item 1.2.
And did you notice in the scanned copy, we got tricked. They wanted to make sure we were paying attention. But 1.2 showed up before 1.1.
Did it?
In my version. Yeah.
I don't know. There was a final agenda that was sent around, and I think it might have fixed some of those mistakes.
Earlier today.
1.1 was the one we just did, and 1.2 is the one we're going to do. So I don't know, Robin, you might have been on a different distribution list.
They wanted to make sure I was paying attention.
Sometimes Mona slips those in, Robin, just for you. It's Bob's and mine are the same.
Yeah, well, they have to be, because we're slugs, so it's we can only follow the. So here we go. I think we're back to Chris. No.
The whole meeting's Chris.
No, that's okay. That way, we can nod or.
Or Kate. Kate's coming up.
All right, Kate, would you mind? Could you bring this up? Do you have this available? It just might be a good visual for the folks that are on.
Sure. The Harpers or
The warrant.
the warrant. Gotcha. Okay.
So as Kate brings that up, so I just, as in years past, we've always provided the board with an overview of what's been submitted so far for warrant articles, so that you get a sense of what the annual town meeting warrant is shaping out to be. So we've got a pretty lengthy warrant, given that almost all of the warrant articles that were postponed last year as a result of COVID-19 are now coming back on as indicated by many of the proponents. So as the board sent out their kind of, reminder and informational guidance around preparing for a smart and safe town meeting, as well as, making sure that proposed articles were discussed and presented with the community. I heard back from everybody, and they did indicate that then, these the petitioners would like to see these. Is there any way, Kate, to zoom in on this just a little bit? Can you do one more? I think should do it maybe. Perfect. So again, almost everything from last year that didn't make it on because it was, it was cut because of COVID has now come back on, with the exception of 2 citizen petition articles. And those are the 2 citizen petitions that came from the school group who are interested in increasing the buses for Chickering, as well as doing a traffic study. And so their petitioner reached out to us over the summer and indicated to us that they were withdrawing those articles. So with the exception of those 2, again, everything has come over. And so I've denoted that in the right column where something was postponed, that we're bringing it back over. 2 other quick things that I just wanted to highlight for the board is if Kate scrolls down just a little bit, we've got one new article, and that is to amend the town's general bylaws as it relates to animal control fees. The town's existing bylaw had coded in and actually listed the amount for certain animal responses like a dog call or a rabies shot or things like that, which those are actually prescribed for through Mass General Law. And so as the state has increased those fees, our local bylaw obviously has not followed suit. And so the chief reached out to the town clerk and indicated that he'd like to change that so that the article just mirrors, or the bylaw, excuse me, just mirrors the MGL. So as the state increases those fees, our bylaw is just in tandem with that, and we don't need to go back and make changes every time we want to, raise a fee in that. The other thing that I wanted to highlight for the board this evening is if you look at Article 17, so the town has traditionally appropriated its reserve fund in a separate article. In the past, it has typically appropriated that amount through both a portion through the levy and a portion through overlay surplus. As we were setting the tax rate this year, the DOR, in kind words, told us to stop appropriating this separately and just fold it into the operating budget as almost every other community does. So we plan to, the amount won't change. The actual funds that we use to fund it won't change. It'll just be folded in into Article 4 or 5, the operating budget, and we'll end up reducing our total number of articles by 1. So I just wanted to highlight that for the board this evening. That's where we are presently at with the annual town meeting warrant.
Got it?
And when does the warrant close again? The 23rd?
It's what, the 17th, Mona?
Yes, the 17th.
John? Are you good, John?
I'm sorry. Yep, I'm good. I was still on the screen with Kate and scrolling through. So sorry.
Okay, so we're good. All right. Chris, thanks. It should be an interesting process as we go forward here. All All right, Article 1.3, Harper's payroll time and labor management related services, proposal discussion and vote. I have an awful lot of screens open, so I'm not as quick as I might want to be here. I gotta scroll down and see. Ta-da-da. Dave Sullivan,
That's me. I'm going to give
calm
you
down.
a break. So, thank you very much for your time tonight. I would like to discuss the Harper's time and attendance proposal. So for the past year, the town of Dover, led by Chris, the town manager, has been researching electronic time and attendance. And when I came on board, it was one of my high priority projects. And it's a high priority project because it touches everybody in the organization, from staff to managers to senior leadership. With staff, they have to fill out cumbersome paper forms. They aren't able to see what their accrued PTO is. They have to request documents such as W-2s or pay stubs. They have no access to get those forms online. For managers, they have the enjoyable time-consuming process of disseminating the paper timesheets, then collecting them back, reviewing them, and if there are any issues or errors, going back to the staff member and doing it all over again. There's also a lot of difficulties in planning for staffing, especially around the holidays, because there's no way to quickly and efficiently look to see who has requested time off for certain dates. For senior leadership, they cannot analyze PTO and staff rosters easily for items such as a budget book. And general analysis of revenues and expense projections are also more difficult since there isn't a easy way to pull all the data. So with all that, we started to look at vendors, and we evaluated Paychex and Harper's. And Harper's is our current payroll vendor for the town, and they are widely used across Massachusetts municipalities. So with this in mind, I had discussions with executive leadership, with the finance team, and with TAB as well. So it was determined that the best course of action was to engage Harper's, and this decision was contingent that Harper's was able to meet certain requirements and that the price was competitive. Some of the requirements that we looked for was ease of use for end users, and that the format was similar to the paper timesheets that staff was used to. Additionally, flexibility to handle future changes in time and attendance policies. So if we ever went to a different way of collecting this information, the system could follow suit. We also looked for the ability for managers to quickly review and approve not only timesheets, but PTO, and the staff's ability to review their PTO balances. And another piece that we looked for was the reporting of staff rosters and PTO for analysis, so a way to quickly and easily grab that data with some infographics as well. And the final piece that we looked for, which is very important, is that it would work with the town's ERP, which is the finance system, which is Vadar. So speaking with Harper's, they do work with Vadar and have for years. Additionally, we checked out some references, some small local towns as well, who've been using this and have reported very good findings as well. So basically, with all this, the price was very similar to Paychex, but we also had the additional benefit of, with Harper's already being our payroll vendor, we didn't have to switch payroll companies as well. So that was a savings not only in cost, but in staff time as well, for doing a much larger implementation and changing over from our payroll vendor to a new payroll vendor, and then on top of it, adding in the time and attendance module. So with the ease of use and the ease of it already being a vendor we are familiar with and use, it seemed like Harper's was the way to go. So from senior leadership to the finance team and to TAB, it was determined that Harper's should be the vendor that we choose to start our electronic time and attendance in Denver.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
John, any questions?
Thanks, Dave. Very thorough, well done. And I would concur that if you can get from your incumbent the same methodology, the same strategic advantage that you can get from one of the big name players, and then we've had a good relationship, a great working relationship with Harper's. That's the logical choice. So well done.
Thank you.
Robin?
I don't have any questions or comments. I know this is something that's going to save a lot of people a lot of time, and it looks like a great proposal to me. And I think everybody, the implementation is always painful, right? And once it gets implemented, it works great.
That's part of the price of entry. Yeah, implementation. And then you have the training component, and those are the things that really need to be paid attention to. And I understand that Dave is very, very despondent because we won't be generating all that paper to go back up into the attic.
Yeah.
So he's really, really concerned about that. He may print reports just for the heck of it.
I might do that just for old time's sake.
Dave, are you going to submit a report as to what to do with all the free space up on the third floor now that you're creating?
We're renting it out. It's going to be a fitness room for the flow over from the Carroll Community Center. Just walking up to the attic is the exercise.
When are we going to start moving boxes out?
Very soon. So that's in the works as well.
Great. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay. So listen. This stuff doesn't get done without collaboration across the different interest areas. And I think that one of the things that I was very pleased with, Dave mentioned this sort of, we dealt with this guy, we dealt with this, we did the dad, we did the finance team. That's pretty impressive as getting a cross-functional group together to sort of noodle on the problem and come up with a good solution. So I see that as a big plus. And thank everybody involved. So with that, I'm going to move to approve the time and labor management service proposal submitted by Harper's Payroll Services. And I move to authorize the town administrator to execute all documents related to Harper's Payroll Services.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, aye, Bob Grant.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Aye, Robin Hunter.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Item 1.4. Robin, do you have it as 1.4 too, or am I the only one?
No, I'm good.
All right,
here.
approved 2020 Selectmen's Town Report. And I'll scroll down.
That's
And
Kate.
who will we find on this one?
Kate.
Oh, it looks like Kate O'Brien has the baton. Hello, Kate O'Brien.
I think this was Kate's first task last year when she started.
It was definitely easier doing it this year since I was actually here the year.
Oh, posh. You just make stuff up. That's what I always did when I was on the capital budget committee.
So before you is the Selectmen's 2020 town report for your review and approval.
So with any luck, Kate, these guys will have taken a look at it. So John, you have any comments?
I have several times. It's a lot of work, Kate, and I know that it was something that that you put a lot into last year. I hope it got a little bit easier this year with some things that you've created. So well done. And I think what you're going to see is we will have benefited from a lot of the attention to the detail you did last year and we're able to put in place this year.
So this is due to the committee, I think, on January 15th. So you could actually read this. If you have any questions or comments, you have a couple of days to voice if you have any concerns. Robin?
I have not read it closely, but I will read it closely. I glanced at it, and when I opened it up, all I could say was, did we do anything other than COVID related stuff? But I guess we did.
It
did a
didn't seem
lot.
like that's a.
I know, I was sort of surprised.
Wait till you get the part about the E. coli in the water.
I saw that. I mean, there was because everything's a blur to me. All I remember is March and the COVID task force being set up, and I feel as though that's all we've done.
E. coli, town meetings.
I forgot about
town-
right.
Oh, there's a lot there.
Yes, okay, and I want to make sure you like that first paragraph. So
Why
why
did
don't you
you
just
write
take a
it?
quick look at that first paragraph.
If you wrote it, Bob, I'll redo it.
Yeah, John wrote it.
That's got edit written all over it right now.
So when I
That's very nice.
when I looked at this the other day, I was just blown away by how much we were able to get done, really. The collective we on this one, the royal we. I mean, not just dealing through the COVID-19 thing, but all of the work, the day-to-day stuff, all the extra work. I mean, it was very, very gratifying. And it was done with style, I mean, except for Chris. Other than Chris, everybody else was really done, without even breaking a sweat.
But it's still so surreal. Like I was at the townhouse earlier this week signing things, and Felicia and Mona were there, and it's just so surreal because you're wearing masks, and if somebody a year ago would have told me this is the way it was going to be, I just have a hard time believing we're living this.
Yes, 11 months. We're in the 11th month.
Right.
I know, it's just like never ends. I didn't think I would ever miss getting on the train to go to New York every week.
I can't believe you missed that.
Exactly.
It's the only time I got my work done. I had 6 hours to get work done.
When I was going by train from New Jersey into Manhattan, I was fine in the morning, but I had coming out of Manhattan at 7:30 at night, catching the train. There were plenty of times I was going to miss my stop because I was totally zoned out.
No,
You really could take any 1, 2, 3 of the items that you could just focus on from transfer station operational hours, from the
you froze, John.
solar panels town. That better?
Yeah, you're better.
Okay. I said any items. There's so many things that have taken place this year. The 1, 2, 3, 4 of them would be enough for an entire year, and we probably have 20 of them that you could go through.
Yeah, we probably forgot some things too, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, all the things that you said, Bob, the people who did them are new to the town.
No more. Not anymore.
All seasoned veterans after a year.
That's it, man. They're all veterans. All right, I move to approve the 2020 annual report of the Board of Selectmen as presented.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, aye, Bob Sprant.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Okay, well done. All right, let's go on to whatever the next guy is.
1.5?
Wash sand.
Award wash sand bid and award tree removal bid.
Yes, so I'm up again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So before, as we do every year, the town went out to bid for washed sand and tree removal services. Bids for the wash sands were opened on Monday, December 28th, 2020. 2 bids were submitted. PA Landers of Hanover, Mass was the lowest qualified bidder at a cost of $19.43 per ton for delivered sand and $14.50 per ton for picked up sand. The bid for tree removal services was opened up today, January 7th, 2021. 3 bids were submitted. Northeastern Tree Service was the lowest qualified bidder at a cost of $32,800.
Thank you.
I still want you to know that Stumpy's Tree Removal is like my favorite tree service company name.
Yeah. They do win on the name one. They just didn't get the price.
I know, I see their trucks every once in a while. It's just like a great name.
Oh,
All right. So I'm assuming there's no questions or comments.
none for me.
Bob and they heard. So the bids.
Did you notice how much the sand is lower? The price is lower than last year.
Yeah.
And it's washed this year.
I think it's
washed
washed every year.
every year.
This
I
year
know, I
this
just
year
had
they
to
used
say
the lotion.
How much is unwashed sand?
You go to the beach. Okay, I move to award the bid for washed sand to PA Landers of Hanover, Massachusetts.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor? Aye, Bob Springer.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
All right, so I'm not sure what I do with the bid for tree removal.
Same motion. Move to approve Northeast as the tree removal.
I don't have the name of the company, that's why. Bless you.
Bless you.
It's
Okay.
Northeastern Tree Service.
Okay, so I move to award the bid for tree removal to Northeastern Tree Service.
Right,
Seconded.
For
for-
$32,800.
Okay, as amended by Robin.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, aye, Bob Springer.
Aye, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Okay. So on this whole sanding of the road stuff, in February or early March, I usually sweep up about 3 wheelbarrow loads of leftover sand just from Francis Street. So we might be able to cut down usage if we just reuse the stuff you guys put on Francis Street.
Well, Bob, if you bring that back to the town garage, the service brings it back.
Does it get washed?
Yeah,
Who
it gets
washes it?
recycled. Yes, just like your socks. They wash them again.
All right, appointment of Erica, item 1.6, and I'm running way behind schedule here. Oh no, I'm right on time, sorry. Appointment of Erica Alders to the Board of Appeals.
Sorry, Rio had to leave the room.
So Alan Fryer, Chair of the Board of Appeals, has recommended that the board appoints Erica Alders to the Board of Appeals to fill the unexpired term of Toby Dushman, who resigned in December 2020. So I think this name is very familiar.
Yes. Warrant Chair. 2 years ago, Eric chaired warrant.
And she was quite a capable person, if I remember correctly.
Very.
So given all that, I'm assuming that we're going to welcome Erica back and take care of. I asked Alan what the story was behind it. He gave me this really short story. I said to him, giving me all her credentials, telling me what a perfect lawyer she is and how she fits. I told him he needed to change the story if we were going to appoint her. That was just, we need somebody who's really fun doing this stuff. I move to appoint Erica Alders to the Board of Appeals as a full member to fill the unexpired term of Toby Dushman for a term ending on June 30th, 2022. Toby, I apologize profusely for not being able to say your name properly. Please accept my apology.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, aye, Bob Springer.
I
Aye,
didn't
John
vote.
Jeffries.
You can move to a vote.
Oh, do I need?
Yeah, we just did it now.
Oh, okay.
Didn't I say that?
We just, No, we're just doing it now.
Okay, I'm confused.
Want me to say it again? I still won't be able to pronounce that gentleman's name, so I need to appoint
It's
Erica
okay.
Alders, blah, blah, blah.
Second, John Jeffries, all in favor. Bob Springett, John Jeffries, now Robin.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob.
favor.
Okay. It must be getting late. 1.7 approved 2021 mileage reimbursement rate. I believe this will be Mr. Dwelly.
Thank you, Bob. Each year, the board just approves the federal IRS mileage reimbursement rate for vehicle expenses while conducting business. The mileage rate and the information from the IRS is included in your packet.
Okay, so I'm assuming again, there's no comments or questions. All right, I move to approve the 2021 standard mileage rate of 56 cents per mile driven for business use.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor? I, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Thank you. Item 1.8, Board of Selectmen updates. The only update I have on Carol is the board has, the chairman has put together a document, a combination of sort of status and FAQs that he's distributed to the committee, and he's sent copies to John, you, and to Robin. And it's a fairly comprehensive view of where we're at and what's going on. And I thought it was well done. The building committee will meet on, I think it's next Monday or Tuesday, to finalize the document, and then it'll be distributed to the public. So from where the building committee is on its timeline, I think it's pretty current and on track.
Agreed. I agree. It's well done.
John, do you have anything?
Just in regards to what you said, Bob, I agree. I thought it was very well done. On Tuesday night, Open Space had a lively meeting, and we are making progress with regards to the open space initiative with identifying various parcels. There are lots of issues that we will face as a town with regards to the 40B. That was obviously a topic that had come up. We spoke about it earlier this evening. Water remains an issue. We touched upon that. So the thing that we do need to report back on is the status of Hale, and what we've done so far. And Chris, I think we left that in our last meeting where you were going to follow up with the folks that in the status of the appraisal.
Can we move on, John?
Yeah, I don't know if Chris wanted to add anything to that.
He nodded vigorously.
Okay.
I was going to wait for the next item, but as Selectman Jeffries mentioned, we've got all our appraisals in, or appraisal proposals, I should say, in packaged up, and those are getting sent over to the Hale group. Westwood has them as well, and we'll be sending out a time for the group to get back together to identify the best firm to move forward. The good thing is at this point, all the appraisals essentially came in around the same price point with similar experience. So it's not a bad crop of firms to be able to choose from, which is nice. So more to come on that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. Just in closing for me, Mr. Chair, I would like to, and I'm not going to make fun of your wash sand comment, but I would like to just say a well done and congratulations. You know, Bobby Tosi has done a great job so far this year, and the roads have been just have really been done well. And this past weekend there was a lot of sanding and salting that happened. Not to again poke fun at your sanding joke, but just a well done to the members of his team. And you know, it's a lot of times when there isn't a snow event, you don't notice that there's sanding trucks out treating the roads. So I just thought they just do a great job.
It's something we all take for granted, actually.
Yeah, we do. Until we cross town line into the next town.
Yeah. So I would, before I turn it over to Robin, I just would also, I was going down Pawissett Street to the transfer station around Christmas time. And I noticed just a tremendous amount of parking, both sides of the street, people walking on Pawissett Street, people trying to get to the transfer station. And it reminded me of the days back in March when it presented, you know, to a number of eyes, a sort of a public safety issue. I asked Chris to talk with the chief and with Bobby, and subsequently they had gone back down Pawissett to look at what had happened to the various no parking signs and other impediments that they put into parking in places that were blind around turns or up or down hills. And so I think what they found was that a number of the deterrents that we had put in place had sort of been affected by either plowing or by the storms. And they're going to, you know, and they're going to go back and sort of redo that and try to make sure that that street stays, you know, a safe place to go. I mean, people come to use the outdoors. It's on the weekends. We have the transfer station stuff. It's something that, you know, everybody needs to continue to be mindful about. So that, you know, that's another thing that kind of work also goes unnoticed. You know, so that was it for me, Robin.
So, you know, the one thing I just wanted to say, I think we were a little remiss when we were nominating Erica. You know, we should thank, because it was Tobe Deutschman, we should thank him for all his service to the town. He's a long time who's retiring from the ZBA. You know, to many old timers in Dover, that's a name everybody recognizes. He actually was on warrant committee at one point in time, and then he was on the board of selectmen. So he's really provided a lot of service and a lot of his time to the town. So I would just like to say thank you to him for his service to the town, and I wish him the best of luck in his new life away from Dover. So.
Do you have it, Robin? Do you know how many years he served?
Many. I mean, Bob, you know, he just devoted so much time to the town. Carl might remember better than me, but it's certainly a name that I remember, having served on the warrant committee myself. You know, people often referred to him, and then I knew he was on the board of selectmen as well. So,
well, in our town report, you know, we had a couple of other people, with long-serving people who sort of retired in 2020.
right.
And you know, you know, we did, you know, that each case we sort of make sure that the board thanked them and recognized their service for.
Right.
But I didn't get any kind of prompt on Toby, and so I do feel that's right. People who have spent that kind of time involved with the town over many, many years. I think Jay Hughes was 55 years, and Henry was 5 decades of service. I mean, from the bottom of our hearts. I mean, it's what makes Dover the town it is, and it really was what makes Dover go.
No, I agree, and I just wanted to make sure we really thanked him for all those years of service. Certainly a great asset to the town, and you know, here we are following in his footsteps. Although I'm not sure I'm qualified to sit on the ZBA, so I'm gonna pass on that one.
Well, thank you for doing that, Robin. Toby, thanks again. Thank you very much. So we covered that. The only thing is for the upcoming agenda, do you want to talk about inviting the water study committee or?
Right, I would actually like them to make a presentation of summarizing everything, because it's been really impressive what they've done. You know, they've worked with other towns. They're not trying to recreate the wheel. They have looked at what other towns have done and what has worked for other towns. And so I think it's an opportunity for them to present to the community all of the work that they've done.
No, I think you're right. I mean, again, you don't realize how much work is being done until you step back and you review it.
Right.
And so, yes. So I don't know. So Chris, will you work with, is it Jerry or?
Yeah, I think Jerry's the chair of that committee. They have a meeting tomorrow morning, I believe. Or maybe no, it's next Wednesday.
I think it's next week, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I'll coordinate with the water team. As Carol mentioned earlier, we had a discussion about some of the things that they were thinking about. And we were thinking about having them come before the board at that point. I can work with them to see if it, makes sense to time everything around that, or if two separate, discussions make sense. But we'll work with them and we'll get something on an upcoming board agenda.
Thank you. Item 1.9, town administrator updates.
Just a few quick things for the board this evening that I wanted to highlight. One, I see Janet on the meeting here, so I just wanted to give a shout out to her and her team for receiving a $4,000 grant award from BI Needham to fund food access for seniors, specifically individuals who are high risk / homebound as a result of COVID-19. I know she's been working closely with the Board of Health on identifying how we can make sure that we're providing those types of services to our most vulnerable populations. So it's really great for her and her team to be able to identify that funding source and be able to get it and be able to move forward on these. So we'll actually have that for the board's approval at an upcoming agenda once all that paperwork gets through. But I wanted to share that this evening with Janet on there. A few other things, particularly related to COVID. I just wanted to let the board know that with the federal government approving the CARES Act extension, while we are not receiving, we meaning municipalities are not receiving any additional monies directly at this point, the extension for utilizing the existing funds that we received last year has now gone out for another year. So we were working toward the timeline of December 30th of this year to get everything done. And so now we have another year to be able to use these funds. And another piece of good news is that a few of us were on a call with the state, and they had clarified for us as they were starting their reconciliation process for the CARES funds that the approximate $500,000 that the town was awarded in CARES funds just represented the state's portion. That did not include the federal funds that we received. So as you recall, we're working toward, this fall and on all our HVAC and all of the other things that we were looking to accomplish. At that time we were under the impression that we had exhausted all of those funds. But it turns out that we've still got now some money on the table to the tune of about $200,000. So these are funds that are available for the same purposes and the same reasons. So I suspect as we continue to identify service needs, or as we get down the road on vaccination clinics, there'll be some utility for these funds. So it's a good thing to have kind of in your back pocket, so to speak, and have another year to be able to use them, which is a nice thing. So I just wanted to highlight that for the board this evening. And we'll certainly talk about that tomorrow during the town's COVID-19 task force meeting. The last thing I just wanted to mention, also related to COVID and the town's task force meeting, is Janet, Mark, and Carl have done a good job in banding together and thinking through what the Carroll Community Center reopening would and could look like now that all of the HVAC improvements have been made in the building. So we've got a whole bunch of materials in terms of an overview and in terms of what programming could look like for Park and Rec and the COA, safety protocols, cleaning protocols in the building, an overview of the HVAC improvements in each particular room. So a nice kind of detailed information that will go out to the task force, and it'll be a core discussion tomorrow as to, you know, the immediate future of Carroll. I know that, you know, certainly with cases increasing, it's a difficult time, but on the flip side, you know, as you know, we hear from a lot of community members on a real desire to be able to have some type of programming and some type of experience safely back in the building. So it'll be good to be able to address this tomorrow. And I was glad that they were able to put this information together for the group. So we'll probably have I'm sure we'll have a follow-up for the board after the task force meets on what a direction looks like. But I just wanted to let you know that was a kind of a big target item that'll be upcoming. And that's all I have this evening.
Just two follow-ups. One, Chris, as we go forward, we should probably add the town meeting prep group for an update, as because looks like we'll kick that off probably starting next. I think we have a meeting next week. Yes.
We do. Yep.
Yeah. So that might be an ad for your bi-weekly update. And you know, I had spent a little bit of time this week emailing with Kay on so I think the COVID-19 task force are going to be dealing with two issues. I mean, there's going to be an awful lot of work and focus on vaccines and vaccine distribution and protocols and processes, to the extent that we need to coordinate and any activities that relate to vaccines. And I think the first responders are targeted for vaccination next week. So I mean, that's a big step forward on vaccinations. Obviously, the state determines the priority and the tiering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this is something that we really would like to see go as smoothly as possible. So that's a big deal. And then the other thing that I'm sort of curious about and interested in is the UK variant. It's seemingly highly contagious at nature. And so part of tomorrow, I think, Kay is we're going to start to talk about the UK variant. And it may or may not affect our strategies for opening up buildings and activities, et cetera, et cetera. And there's not really a great deal that's known, other than it seems to be really highly contagious. And I've researched, and Kay has researched, and you know, right now there doesn't seem to be any additional protocols for people to follow. So it's just really doubling down on distancing and masks and looking at the density of number of people in activities, particularly when you do talking about indoor activity. So those will be, I think those will be the hot button items around the COVID-19 task force for tomorrow. So those are the up and coming things. Okay. Executive session, item ES1. So board members will enter into executive session to prepare for contract negotiations with Colonial Water. I move that the board enter into executive session, not to return to open session, for the purpose of preparing for contract negotiations with Colonial Water. Further, as chair, I declare that an open meeting discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town. So roll call, as you know, roll call vote is required. I guess I need a second.
Second, John Jeffries.
So all in favor, I, Bob Springer.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Okay, so we will end this meeting.